Now that we have our video wall all wired up and powered up, now we can set up our processor. We have several different processors. This one is the one I typically use with the higher resolution wall. We're putting it on top of here, or if there's not enough room and this is against the wall, the processor could also go right behind the wall like here. If you have room, you can sit back here and make this your workstation, or you can place it down here. I tend to typically put it on something if I have the room. So I'm opening my processor. There's only one in each case on this one. Some of them have two in each case. This one only has one in each case. Each one has the power plug inside of it already, with a connector, a locking connector on the back. See where the connector locks? We're gonna plug that in here. And we're gonna plug this end into the power strip that we installed earlier for the first one. Go. Now we're gonna remove the front. And don't lose these case handles. Keep these together. I'll typically just lay them out flat somewhere nice and neat so they don't get lost. And now we have the front of our processor set up. This is the video wall processor. This is essentially the brains of the video wall that turns each individual piece into one big TV. This is where you're going to plug our HDMI from. This is going to do the scaling. This tells each panel where it is, because right now it's just a bunch of different individual TVs. This turns it into one TV. This is the case that I keep my each HDMI or Ethernet, or one of the cases. We have several for each video wall. And you'll see they have a bunch of different Ethernet cables, so you'll always have enough for each job. This is a Ethernet cable. They're the same as the shorter ones, but it just has the longer length. So I'm going to take one of sufficient length. I'm going from output 1 of my processor. I'm going to plug this one in here. Then I'm going to go into the input of my first row. So again, output 1, I'm going out from port 1 of my Ethernet port on the back of the processor into the input of the first row. I'm going to put my wires nice and neat. I'm going to grab another Ethernet cable of sufficient length. I'm grabbing another Ethernet cable of sufficient length. I'm going to make sure they have both of the ends to clip. Okay. And for this one, I'm going into output 2 of the processor, okay, into the second input of the second row. When installing Ethernet cables, always make sure it has the tab for connecting it. We're going to push it all the way in until we hear it click like so. I'm going to put those down neatly. So now I have 2. I'm going to repeat. Now I'm going to do the third row. I'm going to look for a sufficient length cable. So for the third one, I'm going out of number 3, port number 3 on the back of the processor, into the input of the third row. Again, I'm going out from the output of the 4th port on the processor into the input of row number 4. And now our video wall is set up and we can start programming the processor. Now that all our cables are connected, we can start to turn on our processor and start to program it. The power for the processor is on the back. Now we're going to power on our processor on the back in the top right corner above the power plug. We're waiting for it to boot up because it's essentially a computer inside, so we're waiting for our computer to start up. So it takes about 30 seconds to a minute for it to boot up. And now that it's booted up, if you check on the back, you'll see that it has the second light started to blink. If they're blinking all together, when they're blinking like this, that means there's no data connected to it yet. But you'll see that they're all blinking in sync. You'll see that they're all blinking in sync, which means that all our data lines are properly connected to the processor. An important step. A lot of the videos that you'll see, they use a computer to program the processor. When we're doing rectangular and square walls, there's not even a need to use the computer to do it. You can quickly program your processor from the front screen of your Novastar processor. Let's do that now. This is our video rack laptop. This is what we use to play content on whether TVs, video walls, and things of that nature. Again, with the top, put it somewhere nice and neat. It's going to contain a laptop, the power plug for the laptop, a connection cord, video splitter for TVs, but for our purposes, we're just going to open the laptop and boot it up. This is the power plug for our video rack laptop. We use this laptop to play any content, whether it's for a video wall, for our TVs. It comes in this case. Again, make sure that you're putting the top away somewhere nice and neat. We're not just throwing it away so that we can find it at the end of the night. We're making sure that we're noting all the different cables and things that come inside the video rack and that they go back in at the end of the night. So what we're going to do for our purposes, we're just going to power up the laptop. We're going to plug it in. And again, this uses so little bit of power, we can plug this in to that first power line for the first row of the video wall that we have our processor in. Wherever the laptop processor in, you can always plug a laptop in it as well. Not lights, again, not lights, not a sound system. Little things that use very little amperage can go in the same line as this. I'm going to boot it up and turn it on. And let's grab an HDMI cable. There's also always HDMI cables in here. We don't need a very long one today. This is an HDMI cable, and the reason we know it's an HDMI cable is because of the way this end is shaped. For this particular application, I'm using a shorter cable because the processor is right next to the laptop. We also carry cables 50 feet. We have 100 feet cables, so wherever you need to be with the laptop versus the processor, we can reach. There's two schools of thought. Some people always place the processor near them and then run longer Ethernet cables, which is fine. Me personally, I typically keep the processor by the wall because I use so many data cables, and I'll run a longer HDMI to it. So I only have to run one cable. Instead of in this, I would have to run 4 cables to get the processor all the way across the room if we were in a bigger room.
So now, where does this go in?
So now the HDMI cables on these laptops are usually on the sides. On the PCs, they could be on the left or right. On MacBooks, they're usually on the right side. So we're going to go into this HDMI port here on the laptop. Then on the back of the processor, so on the back of the processor, we have several HDMI ports. We have port 1, we have a loop, and we have port 2. In addition to being a video wall processor, this is also a video wall scaler and a switcher as well too. But we typically just use it for scaling and video wall processing. So we're only going to use HDMI input 1, but if we had 2 laptops, technically you can plug them into here and use the front panel as a video switcher. So we're going to go into input 1 on here, and now we're connected. The password is usually written on our laptop, so they're going to be right here. So I'm just going to put the password in real quick. And we have some content up already in here from our last party, so we're going to use that. I know this processor is already set, so let's double check. It's already set, but we don't want that from the last party. So I'm going to mess it up so that way we can set it properly. We're going to factory reset the processor. This is our menu and select button, this knob. So you press it in, scroll down till it says factory reset, press it in, scroll down to reset all. We're going to go to yes, and then we're going to press it in, and that's going to be a factory reset. This is our processor, Novastar VX1000, and now we're ready to configure. We're going to start using this knob right here, which allows us to select and highlight anything that we need to in the menu. It's a one-button menu option. We're going to push it in, look for screen configuration. It's already highlighted. There it is. We're going to select it by pushing in the knob again. We're going to look for quick configuration. That's already highlighted as well. We're going to push that in. Now we are in our quick configuration screen, and this is what we're going to use to tell the processor how we have our video wall set up and wired. We're going to start with the rows. We know that rows are how high the video wall is going, how many cabinets. We know that we have 4 high, so we're going to push it in, scroll to 4, select that by pressing in the knob, and that locks it in when it turns back white. Now we're going to use the same knob, scroll down to cabinet column quantity. That's how many panels wide the video wall is. We're going to select that by pushing it in, turning the knob till 7, because we know we did the wall 7 panels wide. We're going to push the knob in to select that and highlight it. Now this one is very important. Port 1 cabinet quantity. That's our first Ethernet port on the back. We need to tell it how many panels is on that one port, and then the processor can figure out the rest of the ports by itself. Very important that you keep all of the ports the same number of cabinets except for the last port. So we know that we have 7 cabinets on port 1, so we're going to highlight that by pressing it in, scrolling over to 7, and selecting 7. Now that is set. Our last option is data flow, and you'll see that it says front view. Now this is where we tell the processor how we wired up our Ethernet cables. Because we went straight across in all of them, it's either going to be this first one, or this one. Those are going to be our 3 options. On the other 3, you'll see that's if we went up and down with our wiring. But we know, again, that we went straight across, so it's going to be this one. And it's from the front view of how it's wired. So looking from the front, I know I started on this side of the wall and I went to this side. So we're going to select that one, and now our wall is configured, and when we go around to the front, we see our picture is good. We need to now tell the processor to scale it out to take up the entire screen. And lucky for us, without having to use a computer, there's a 1-button solution for that. On the VX1000, there's a simple 1-button solution to scale. You hit the scale button right here, and your image should be perfect. Voila, we now have a perfect video wall. And that is how you hook up a video wall. And then I'll play some video so you guys can see. As you can see, our video wall is all set up and ready to go. Sometimes we have situations where there is a really bright window in the room and we have cracks and lights that show behind the video wall, no matter how well we put it together. As you can see right here, you can see the light shining behind it. Don't worry, this is a really easy fix. We're just going to grab some gaffer tape, go behind, cover up the lines behind. As I can see through the video wall with that little gap right there. Small piece of black gap tape. Got the tape up, double checking that we can't see the light. Good to go. So now everything is up and it's working. Your party is over and it's time to break it down.